Are you ready for the best damn sports radio show on the planet? Man Hour Nation, rise up.
You don't want to be every time, no. I would like to personally welcome you to Man Hour After Dark. Say that thing. While I bring you the host, Mike, Buck, and Cone. You know who's coming to the stage. Sports talk than what you about to hear right here. I second that.
Go. You know that it's us when we talking about sports. Giving you facts on the field to the core. Tune in, we need the support. 1 hour too short, still listen some more. On all your stations, not dropping no music. Starts like Adidas, but Nike just do it. Down 4 in the 4th, we go for the win. Michael 2 seconds, we taking it in. Buck, Mike, and Combs, you know what's going on. Man, now we're After Dark, no LA, we the big spark. No 4th and inches, won't cut short. Got the best talking, it's all sports. Buzzing more than buzz beaters. We coming live all through your speakers, go.
And what is going on, Man Hour Nation? It's your boy, BC Beastie Brandon Combs, coming to you live here on Tuesday night. It is Thanksgiving week. Thanksgiving, you know, the 3 Fs, family, food, football. We're all pumped up for all of that stuff. But tonight, I got my boy with me. It's the man, the myth, the real legend. As Buck would say, the peanut butter to my women. It's the Soup Boss.
No,
Soup, what's going on?
You don't get to give me the exact same intro you gave Tori the other night, you lying bastard. Don't even start
look,
this.
Everybody,
You called him your right-hand man. You called him your right-hand man, and then you gave some shit. I'm not even on here for 5 seconds, and I'm already getting ready to light into you. I ain't no woman to your peanut butter. Don't get us banned on YouTube already.
Everybody is now the woman
bastard.
to the peanut butter. I'm using the Buck thing, and I'm going back and forth with the same intro like Buck does. I'm trying to keep it like Buck is on the show.
That's not going to help us either. That's going to get us kicked off YouTube as well. You're not thinking clearly right now.
That's true. Look,
cool
don't ruin my vibe, Soup Boss. I am in a good mood. Matt Nagy is getting fired. It's Thanksgiving, and we've got RC Orlan on the show tonight.
I was just going to say, I'm the second biggest guest tonight, and you're number 3. So it all
that's
works
true.
out. And isn't
That's
the whole
true.
point of having me on here when I wasn't even supposed to is just to ruin your night in some way, shape, or form? By the way, I can't wait for the 3 Fs, which is football on Thursday, and we find out the fact of the night, which would be the 4th F, which is Nagy gets a 3-year extension. Just watch your brain explode.
Dude, if I swear to God, I will. I'm telling you right now, I will find a bell tower. Yep.
Thanks for watching our show. YouTube is going to ban us immediately. If it wasn't for any of the stuff before, we're talking about mass murder or suicide or something.
And we had RC Orlan in the background, but he just left. So.
Yeah, way to go.
RC Orlan is a left-handed pitcher. He's pitched for Team Israel. He's gone to camp with the Cleveland Indians as early as 2019. So welcome to the show, RC Orlan. RC, are you still with us, buddy?
Yep, I'm here, guys. Actually, there's a bell tower on campus about 15 minutes away, so we can Uber there whenever you need.
Don't get him going.
I like it.
RC. You're just going to instigate the man to just come up with something even dumber to get us banned.
That's kind of what we do here, RC. That's kind of what we do. Speaking of what we do, RC, so let's just get right into it, man. So right now you are, as far as I can see on everything that I've looked up, still a free agent. You still consider yourself a free agent, or are you retired?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right when COVID hit, I had an injury, and so I was coming back from that. And then when COVID hit and the minor league teams shut down, it just kind of seemed like the writing was on the wall. So I've transitioned into coaching now, and then joined the 9-to-5 life as well.
Hey,
a bunch
man,
of
we
suckers
know
like
all
me
about
on the
that.
9-to-5.
Yeah. Yeah, we like to work. Actually, Soup and I like to work like 6 to 6, then come do the show, and then go back to work after we get off the show. It's kind
you
of
can
our
do the
lives
interview
right
with
now.
us at like 2 a.m. when we're at the we're really selling you on this 9-to-5 life and how awesome it is. Don't worry, don't be an MLB pitcher.
Go back to it, RC. Go back to baseball.
Go back.
I'm actually retiring from my 9-to-5 to go live the minor league lifestyle. You guys have sold me on it.
Hey, well,
Perfect.
now especially that the MLB is going to give you housing, freaking live it up, buddy.
Oh my gosh. What would that be like? You guys are going to
That's
be living like kings, having a place where they don't have to pay. It's going to be unbelievable.
that's if MLB can get that CBA going, right?
Well, yeah, you had to bring it up, man. Of course.
Yeah, I've so when I was in big league camp in 2019, they have a closed door meeting, so I don't know how much I'm allowed to say and whatnot, and so much changes. But just at
Just
the end of
say
the
it
day, just yeah. So the gist
Nobody's
of it
watching
was,
RC.
exactly. The gist of it was, hey, we're not at an agreement yet. And that's all they kind of left it at. But there were some hints in there like, hey, we're not sure what's going to happen. So I don't know if they say that every year or not, because I wasn't there, but it was just little on the fence. But again, that was 2-3 years ago. Things have changed, with the rosters and stuff. So I'm sure they'll figure it out. They have for the last 25 years.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you, what was it like? So you pitched in the World Baseball Classic, and that's actually one of my favorite tournaments to watch. I just love first of all, I just love baseball. So the more baseball I can get, the better. Like I don't care. Obviously you can see I'm a Cubs fan, but after being a Cubs fan, I am just a baseball guy. And I'll watch, from noon to midnight every day if it's on. So the World Baseball Classic really excites me because you get baseball before baseball. And you got to pitch for Team Israel and represent your country. What is it like to represent Team Israel in the Baseball Classic?
I remember growing up watching and just wearing a Team USA hat everywhere I went. I think when I was in 8th grade, I think was the first year, maybe 7th grade. And David Wright was there, so I wore my Team USA hat everywhere. I was a big Mets fan growing up. And I was like, man, I'll do just about anything to play in that tournament. And so
it's all about the Mets, baby.
Yeah, the Mets. Oof, yeah, we can go down a long circuit about them. I got a call from my agent one day, 2015. It was like, hey, there's a qualifier for the World Baseball Classic with Team Israel, and it's basically a bunch of Americans that get to qualify through birthright. He said, would you be interested? And he goes, if you guys win your qualifier, you get to play in the World Baseball Classic. I was like, why are you even asking? What you're like, this is a no doubter. Absolutely. What do I need to do?
Would you like to breathe as a way to live? Would you like some of this oxygen?
Exactly. I was like, so I'm like, what's the catch here? And he was like, nothing. Like you'll go play with the team. There's a bunch of big leaguers. And then if we qualify, then we get to go, play in Korea. So we're like, oh, so best case scenario, I get to go miss part of spring training to go play in front of 15,000 people. And I know that baseball's so big in Asia. I was like, this is going to be the greatest experience ever. So we played in Brooklyn right when right when our minor league season ended. And so we played Brazil and we played Great Britain twice. And then Great Britain had a couple people that were, I forget which country, I think it was Jamaica, is how they fell under that bracket. I forget, somewhere in the Cayman Islands or in that region. So they had some really good players. Trevor Hoffman was one of their coaches, which was cool. So I was like, hey, that guy's the second, best closer of all time. So we almost lost in the first game. Then luckily won, I think 2-1 or 3-1, something like that. And then blew them out and beat Brazil 1-0. So we celebrated, we went crazy, and they said, hey, in February, we get to bring the gang back together. So we flew from Arizona as a team. We had one guy who missed his flight, which is, I think, hilarious. And then flew to Korea on, 12-hour flight. And then we get there and I've never obviously been to Korea, and just breathing in the culture and learning as much as I could. And then you get to the first game and we play Korea. And so we just got 15,000 fans screaming the whole entire game. And then, I see that you're obviously a Chicago fan. Here comes. And the closer for Korea, his last name is O, and he was setup man for the Cardinals for a while. I forget his first name, but his
he must have been a freaking legend.
Exactly. It was basically like they brought in Jason Isringhouse against us.
Yeah.
And so
go Cardinals.
Yeah, and his nickname translates to "game over" in Korea, or in Korean, which was like, I thought, the coolest thing of all time. He threw 2 innings really well against us. We ended up beating him. And so we had to beat the Netherlands or Chinese Taipei. We ended up beating both. So we ended up winning that pool. And then we took a puddle jumper to Japan and went to Tokyo. So we had to play in the Tokyo Dome, which was one of the only stadiums I knew about. But saw it on TV and saw it in the World Baseball Classic and was just like, oh man, I can't believe I'm actually here. Usually a major league team plays over there once every other year. So the first game we won, and then we lost to then we lost to Netherlands. We played them again. And then we had to play Japan. If we beat Japan, we were in. And we just kind of ran out of pitching. But I mean, that whole experience was amazing. I had goosebumps when we played Japan. It was, 40, 50,000 people. It felt just like a college football game. And so, I mean, I'm getting chills thinking about it. And then when I went back to regular spring training in minor leagues, obviously you play on backfields. So you've got no motivation after coming back from that. But a lot of times minor leaguers are sent over to the big league games and wear number 93, 95, just in case, they need somebody. And I've been to a couple games, but wasn't a part of big league camp. And I'm sitting there in the bullpen, I'm warming up. I'm not even excited at this point because I just got to go play in front of 40,000 fans. I'm like, hey, I've got a chance to make my spring training debut. And I was excited, but it was nothing like the adrenaline I had over there. So it just goes to show the atmosphere and environment that they brought, which was they were an amazing host.
So RC, you came at me a little bit there with the Cardinals thing, which I can appreciate. I can appreciate a good ribbing, and I told you I watch a lot of baseball. I do. I watch a ton of baseball, and I remember watching you pitch, and I remember watching you pitch against a guy you might know his name, Eloy Jimenez.
Yeah,
and he hit a ball off of you that is still orbiting the Earth, sir.
Oh, man.
And RC just left the show. What? You're one hell of an interviewer, Combs. You brought up St. Louis.
I had to give it back to him.
That raked you yard.
Oh, I love it. So yeah, I was playing in high A against Winston-Salem, and I think he just got traded. I want to say the Cubs for some reason. You guys might know where he got traded. Was it the Cubs? Was he with you guys?
It was the Cubs. The Cubs traded him to the White Sox for, I don't even want to talk about it, but they traded him for a pitcher who we won't talk about because he's no longer with the team.
Gotcha. Sounds good. So it sounds like a great trade. But hey, I just wanted to make sure that his stock looks good, make sure that it was a good trade for the White Sox. So I threw him a 3-1 fastball, and let's say he didn't miss it.
You're not the only one. I mean, look. I remember watching Eloy Jimenez come up through the Cubs system, and then watching him this past year in the playoffs. And in that first round, he hit one that I swear is still in Houston. It went clean out of the ballpark in Houston. That guy can just flat out punish a baseball.
He's built like a middle linebacker. I've played with some pretty big guys before, but just seeing him, I mean, he is a very intimidating guy. And I threw him a couple changeups that were close, and I tried to throw a fastball in, and the only thing that was in about it was that the ball is still in the state of North Carolina. Luckily.
So let me
North
ask
Carolina
you this.
is a pretty long state. It just depends on what part of it.
That's a good point.
What baseball is starting to, let's say, change, right? Because there's a lot of new rules, a lot of things that baseball is implementing, trying to move games along, trying to prevent this, trying to prevent that. What do you think of the new rules, the new checkpoints, we'll call them, for pitchers in baseball?
So yeah, these are great points. I love diving into this. So I think they need to just standardize whatever sticky stuff that they use. So either they need to have something on the mound, behind like a rosin bag that's, got a little grip to it, or on the balls. I was told Mizuno makes a ball for the NPO, the Japanese major leagues over there, that's got a little grip to it. And the problem is when they put mud on the balls, they're cue balls, and you've got no grip whatsoever. So at first, people were using the grip just to honestly have control over where the ball's going, and then when Rapsodos and TrackMans came about probably 4 or 5 years ago, you started reading how fast your ball was moving and how much in which directions. So now guys were going into the lab in the off seasons and just practicing and finding out which stuff was the stickiest and how much my ball moved, and figured out, hey, this is literally the best grip for my pitch. And so you took a guy throwing 95 miles an hour, and now you added 3 or 4 inches of run or cut, because now he can manipulate it. So it went from something that was a necessity, in my opinion, that just went way, way overboard in the other direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love the fact that we're barely in this, and I'm the child of this show, RC. So one, we talked about sticky balls, which I absolutely love, and two, you know, I want chaos. So I actually disagree, not because the points you make are great. I think putting something universal behind the mound, when I actually look at it that way, is do it, have it out, but have it where it can be regulated. But I have not laughed as hard as I think I have at almost any sporting event, then watching pitchers lose their ever loving minds because they get checked and they're on by the first baseline, ripping up their shirts, taking off their hat.
Max
I think we've
Scherzer.
had like Max Scherzer dropping his pants. Like, I'm just waiting for one pitcher just to go full nude with it and just be like, here, you can check every orifice of my
Scherzer
body.
was pretty
Go for it.
close.
Yeah.
Remember they were massaging Scherzer's head?
Yeah.
Wasn't that crazy?
There's now guys have to get creative. So I think they're I don't know if it's happened or not, but I know if I was going to put sticky stuff in my glove now, I'm going to stick it in the index finger all the way deep, and then take my glove off, wipe the sweat off, and then when my glove hand, is exposed now, I'm then going to go wipe the ball, put it back on, and rub. That's
Did
how
RC Orlan
Is everyone taking notes? This
Did
is
he
recorded,
just
right?
He just went full on freaking OJ Simpson. If I was going to do it, this is how I would have done it.
If I were going to do the deed, if I was the one
That is
wanted
awesome.
to go through with the crime, there are so many minor leaguers right now, RC, that are just absolutely scribbling on paper. All two of them that probably will ever listen to our show in the minor leagues. But they're going nuts right now. Good job keeping the chaos going.
Absolutely.
I love it.
I appreciate that. I like that.
So I like seeing pitchers dominate. It's fun. I just think that if it was standardized, then it could be fair, whatever it is. But just make something legal, make something not, and then if you're using stuff that's not, fine them. But in the other direction, the balls are so different when you don't have that tack. The difference is astronomical, as we've seen in some guys' stats. But my issue is taking it away in the middle of the season is a huge issue.
Yeah.
You train a whole entire season, a whole spring training, and you get so many reps in to be able to control, manipulate a ball a certain way. And then halfway through the season, you're like, hey, sorry guys, like everything that you've done your whole entire life is stripped. Yeah. Don't like the approach there. Do it in the beginning of the season, spring training, let everybody know. Do it after the season, but to just in the middle of the season manipulate it, terrible timing.
I agree. And, we're talking about things that baseball is doing to try to maneuver around like cheating and that type of stuff. And, baseball right now just came out again with the, their Hall of Fame ticket. And I'm a big proponent of Barry Bonds is the greatest player to ever step on a baseball field, right? Like I feel like bar none, Barry Bonds is the greatest of all time.
Don't say right ? Like RC's going to automatically agree with you. Like I love how you phrase it like that. Go right, like RC agrees with me. I'm not even going to ask him, but he's going to agree with me.
Yeah, give me the layup here. Like he's the best.
No, so yeah, exactly. So I'm a big fan of Barry Bonds. I loved everything they did. The numbers say it all. I feel like the steroid era, they need to just throw out the name steroid era and just allow these players into the Hall of Fame for two reasons. One, these guys were great players and what they did on the field was amazing, regardless of what they were putting in their bodies. Two, baseball made billions and billions of dollars off of the steroid era. And they knew. They just threw the players under the bus afterwards and pretended like they didn't know, because that's kind of what baseball's good at. They're not good at marketing. They're not good at defending themselves. They're not good at defending their players, but they're very good at throwing them under the bus.
Well, they're not good at defending their players, especially when a steroid pitcher takes a broken bat and nearly throws it through Mike Piazza's leg.
Exactly.
Not saying there's proof that Roger Clemens wasn't beefing up or anything, but wink, wink.
So RC, what is your thoughts about the Hall of Fame? Do these guys belong in, or do players you talk with players who play the game. You're in the minor leagues. You've talked with players who are now in the major leagues and all that stuff. You've got friends in the game. What's the general consensus in the game? Is it just let these guys in, or do you guys kind of feel the same way the writers do? And it's they cheated, so this is their penance.
Right. No, it's such a great topic. And I've gotten to hear it from guys that are in the Hall of Fame. I've gotten to hear it from guys that have 15 ERAs in the minor leagues. And it's really scattered. So my personal opinion is if you're not going to let them in, they're still a part of history nonetheless. And at the end of the day, the Hall of Fame still has a part of the museum that's, hey, here's the start of baseball. You know, the rules were completely different. Look how the game's transformed and look at the game that it is today. Leaving out that piece, even if we're not letting them in the Hall of Fame and, you know, giving them a plaque and everything, I still think that part of the story needs to be told because it's incredible. We had guys shattering home run records. The pace of, you know, the home runs were through the roof and people enjoyed it. And so if we're not going to let them in, at least have that story told. So I go back and forth, but again, we don't know. We only know the people who got caught as well. We don't know the hundreds of players that didn't get caught that were taking it as well. So it just makes it tough for me to only point at the guys who got caught. And so it's just like, look, if we're not going to let them in, at least say, hey, you know, these were Hall of Fame stats. Look at all the things Barry Bonds did. How can we leave out a guy who was walked, you know, with the bases loaded? You know, they intentionally walked with the bases loaded. How are you going to leave a story out in a just an icon like that out of the game? I don't love it. So
the guy walked over 2,000 times in his career and only struck out less than 600. That's insane.
It's nuts. And yeah, I mean, for a while he was hitting, you know the stats better than I do, but it was, you know, he averaged like what 330 and like 45 home runs or something insane.
Yeah.
If I'm not going to let him in, people still need to hear the story. There's kids, you know, that I coach now who don't know who Barry Bonds is, and baseball's job should still be to, you know, to include that, you know, nonetheless. Either, you know, if you don't want to give him the jacket, fine. If you don't want to give him a plaque, fine. But, you know, that still needs to be told and embraced because, again, you still let him in the league, and I'm pretty sure somebody before he got caught knew what was going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To your point, RC, that I love that you brought up, sometimes when I think about this, because there's an element you kind of almost want to be like, well, what about the players who didn't take it and the fairness of them and everything like that? But at the same time, you brought it up, the hundreds of players that didn't get caught. I remember reports still to this day that come out in different sports of people that get caught, and you go, who? Like someone failed a drug test, or and you go, who? Or what skill level are they? Or you know, what level? And they never are anything. So I'm not saying that by taking these drugs, it didn't enhance the ability of those players that were caught, but there are players that either weren't caught or were caught and were just not household names that didn't make the MLB a ton of money. And they just, no one cares about it at that point. No one's bringing that aspect into it. So it's but I love your point. Like, put him in, don't put him in, but don't let it fade to black. Like, you got to tell the story of what happened. Hell, tell the story of how great Barry Bonds was, but in my opinion, was a jackass to his own son when he broke the record. But that's stuff you put on ESPN 30 for 30.
Exactly. You're 100% right. So if we leave him in, I'm sure there's a case to be made. Hey, well, you know, if he shouldn't get in because we're leaving out a guy who played it the right way. You know, I get all those arguments. And so if nothing else, if you vote yes or no, there's still a story that needs to be told and needs to be involved. And I would hate for guys not to hear it just, you know, because of everything that happened, because again, he's not the only one that did it. Roger Clemens, you know, pitched until he was 40, 45, you know, did some unethical things for sure. But again, it was just a different game. I know that they tell a story about having coffee that's leaded and unleaded in the minor leagues. And the ones that were leaded had greenies in it. You know, that was just a thing that was very common that everybody did. And obviously you would fail for a drug test now, but it was in, I think maybe not every locker room, so don't quote me, but the guys I played with, they all talked about leaded and unleaded coffee like it was just a thing that was everywhere.
And here's my biggest gripe with the writers and with the Hall of Fame in general, right? They chose where to draw the line in the sand. We've let guys like Ty Cobb in the Hall of Fame. We've let guys. I mean, the greatest baseball trade ever that I've heard of was two players back in the late 1800s who traded their families to one another, traded their wife and kids for another set of wife and kids, and one of those players is in the Hall of Fame. Like, so we draw the line.
And every dad and husband listening to this are like, "Whoa, I didn't know we could."
Yeah, you could do that. Wait a minute, I'm gonna start playing baseball.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, sorry, Kaylee. You're getting traded.
One of my kids is listening to this show right now. I'm sorry, Eli. I've never thought that. Trust me.
But no, I'm a big, like, you can't just draw the line in the sand. You can't decide, oh yeah, you know what? Well, we know Ty Cobb was a scumbag and he was a known racist throughout all of baseball. But it's cool, let him in. But maybe Pete Rose bet on his team, so we're not going to let him in. Or maybe Barry Bonds. Well, we all know eye test tells you Barry Bonds took steroids, but he never failed the test. Just like this year, they're going to vote Big Papi in because they love Big Papi. Everybody loves Big Papi. There's no way Big Papi wasn't using.
Everyone
Big
loves
Papi
Big Papi.
even had a failed test that nobody likes to talk about. But it's because they like him, they're letting him in. I just don't.
Right.
I don't understand it.
Well, maybe if Barry Bonds wasn't a huge jerk to his kid when he broke the record and was a scumbag, maybe they'd let him in. That's the difference.
RC,
Don't
do
be a
you hear? Do you know this
scumbag,
story?
and you get let
Do you know
in.
what he's talking about, RC?
No, you brought it up twice now, and I think
So,
I know a lot about baseball,
when
but
he-
I haven't heard this one.
Yeah.
Go watch a video of when Barry Bonds broke Hank Aaron's record, and he's going around the bases, and he gets home, and you just talk about a guy that was soaking in every element of the crowd, which I get, and his son is right there. His son and wife and little kid, and his son goes up to him, and he barely gives the kid a fist bump, like, "Oh yeah, what's up?" Like he was a reporter, like in his face,
man.
like, and doesn't even look him in the eye, and you can tell his son is just like, "My dad just broke it," and he's just like, "Yeah, screw you, Junior." Like, didn't even give two shits, and is like raising his hands to the crowd and hugs his little daughter, and I guarantee you, his son is right now in therapy because of that moment.
Yeah, you've got Barry who's just like, hey, get off. This is my moment to shine. You want it? Yeah, I'll dap you up when you hit 760 home runs. I'll have to go watch that.
Yeah, it's definitely true. I didn't really realize it until Supa said something about it, and then I watched and I was like, "Oh man, he's right. He definitely does." It's kind of funny because now that Supa's pointed out, you're gonna watch it again. And you're gonna laugh when he does it because it's kind of comical.
I can't wait. Yeah, that's such a bad look where you've got videos of people, like hugging their family, and obviously, that's and he was just like, nah, like you didn't hit these home runs, son. These are mine.
Yeah. So any baseball guy that I get on this show, I like to talk to them about, certain things that I'm trying to pull within the game, and I'm trying to get a feel for how people in the game are thinking about it. So we've had Tim Dillard on the show, who does the pre and post game for the Milwaukee Brewers, used to pitch for it. Yeah. So we've had him on the show, and I asked him the same question. What is your feelings, or what would be your feelings on automated strike zones?
Yeah, God, it's such a tough question.
Ask
Right
it
now,
here we go.
Yeah, so I would definitely like it 100%, but you're taking away the art of the catcher. And when you have a good catcher who can steal pitches, like I've had catchers in minor leagues where I've gotten in fistfights because they suck and they're not helping me behind the plate. And you're like, dude, like you don't understand the impact you have on my career. And so like, they get thrown up against lockers because you're like, dude, you have a chance to get me better. And when you do, you move up because you make me look good. And I've had catchers that automatically do this like naturally. And I'm like, this was the greatest thing ever. So I've got an example. A guy named Sandy Leone. I think he just signed with the
Let's
Cleveland
go,
Indians.
big boy Sandy.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's an all-star with you guys.
Heck
Exactly.
yeah, baby.
So he went to rehab when I was in short season, so in rookie ball. And I remember going up to him being like, hey, before the game, this was back when I was a starter, I was like, once fastball, like I'll throw a two-seam. And I was like, here's the sign for two-seam. He was like, just throw a two-seam whenever you want. And I was like, all right, like that's pretty impressive that he doesn't even need to know if I'm throwing a four-seam or two-seam that he'll catch it. And then I was like, change up, curveball, here we go. And I threw a really good curveball, what I thought at the time in warmups, and he just beat the ball to the spot and manipulated it so smoothly that I caught the ball and just had to like drop my glove and just look at my pitching coach and say, this was the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. It was unbelievable how he could manipulate the strike zone, made it 2 balls bigger on each side, and I just felt like I was throwing to the ocean. I think I threw 5 shutout, and again, I'm not taking credit for this at all, but just throwing to that was night and day difference than somebody else, and not having to work on that seems like you're taking away an art, which I don't like. But with that being said, I've got a pretty steep 12-6 curveball where balls get caught around the high shin, right around the low calf area that get called balls all the time that on TrackMan are strikes. So I would love to get that pitch back 100%. So I love it. But at the same time, I see how good some of these catchers are and how it's a 100% advantage to the game. And I don't love the idea of having to take that away from them.
I played catcher pretty much my whole life, RC. Not obviously to your level or extent, but I
all the way up through Little League.
All the way up through Little League. One game away from Little League World Series. So good. No, but anyways, I understood that element. Like, it was my job to make the pitcher better. It was my job to take care of the pitcher. It was my job 100% to know what my pitcher needed to know, how they need to know, and everything like that. And now I watch the game, though, and I completely agree with you on that point, except sometimes I watch the catchers doing that and still making the ball even look better or helping the pitcher, and it's still even hitting the strike zone or a part of the strike zone, and they're still not getting the calls because of what some of these umpires are doing. It feels like even the work that the catchers are doing compared to when I would watch it growing up and in the early 2000s, that point you're making seems like that's slowly getting depleted away too. Do you feel like there's a frustration coming from that position because all the work they do?
Absolutely. So now it's gotten to the point with analytics, which I'm pretty high on the analytics side, on that extreme, but catchers get grades now to say, hey, how many balls out of the strike zone did you bring in? And how many balls that were in the strike zone did you get called strikes? And it was my first game in AAA in 2019 for Columbus. Eric Haas was behind the plate. I'm not sure if you guys know the name, but he had an unbelievable year. And there was a middle fastball. I'm talking just like completely bullseyed for an 0-0 ball. And it ruined his record. Like, his score for the day ended up being like a 70 out of 100. And it was because this ball was just middle, and the umpire chose to ball it. And this guy in AAA, it's 35 degrees out and has the smallest strike zone in the world. We're like, dude, like, can we just go home? Like, we're all freezing. Like, this is terrible. And so when you see things like that, and exactly to your point, you're just like, dude, at the same time, like, it's great that you do all these things, but you're not helping. At the end of the day, I need you to call all the strikes. And that just doesn't happen.
Yeah. And the worst part for me is that you watch stuff like this. You watch guys like Angel Hernandez, CB Buckner, Cowboy Joe West. You watch these guys in their strike zones, and you cringe when you see that they're behind the plate in a game you're about to watch, because it not only does it change the pitches between balls and strikes and change what a pitcher should get, it also changes the approach of a hitter. When a hitter, takes a pitch that is, 3 or 4 inches outside and it gets called for a strike, now he's forced to swing at everything because he does not know what you're calling. And a smart pitcher is going to live on that outside corner 3 or 4 inches off and continuously get those calls. And that's what guys like, Angel Hernandez are doing to this game. And that's the reason why, like, I am a big proponent. And like I said, man, I love the game of baseball. I eat, sleep, and breathe baseball. And I think baseball is beautiful in its purest form. Like, I wouldn't change a thing about the game. But
all right,
where
buddy,
we have
quit kissing up and drooling here. Let's move it on. Okay.
Where we get to the point where this is altering games, it's altering outcomes. Hell, it altered a playoff series. I mean,
Absolutely.
we all saw how the San Francisco Giants walked out of the playoffs this year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was terrible. It was so bad. And you've got to take that out of the umpire's hands at this point. There's a reason why we have technology. There's a reason why we're starting to implement it in the game, and they have the ability to do it. It makes zero sense not to do it at this point. And I think all the umpires have shown it.
No, you're exactly right. It makes it so hard where you just get to this point where you're like, can we just get the call right? No matter if we have umpires, no matter this, no matter that, it's just get the call right. And so if we have technology to do it, why would we want the human error? The only argument you have is, well, because this is the way it was. And it's just not a great argument. Oh, we got Drewski in the house. Let's see. Who does RC think was the GOAT pitcher? Oof, man, this is a fully loaded question here. The GOAT pitcher. I'll go with this guy because I at least have a funny story to back it up. So I'll go with Mariano Rivera. And so I'm going with him just because I've got a funny story that I can parlay into the podcast here. So Mo's son, Mariano III, was drafted, I think, 2 or 3 years after me. And in spring training, Mo comes down to watch his son play. And so he's just hanging out, being really quiet. Obviously, everybody knows who he is. And so one of the guys from the Dominican asked to take a picture with him. He was, 19, 20. I forget what, the name of the player. And then posted on Instagram later and just goes, "I'm so honored to be able to meet my idol, Pedro Martinez." And so somebody screenshotted it, found out about it, and we printed it all over the locker room. It was just, that exact post that he had because he didn't have time to delete it. So awesome. I had to, since we brought up GOAT pitchers, I had to bring him up. What he did in the Worlds, in the playoffs is insane. Let's see, best pitchers of all time.
I actually worked with Mariano's son.
Yeah. So Mariano's son, he pitched up until high A. He threw pretty hard. His cutter was pretty good. Wasn't obviously what his dad's was because nobody's will ever be. Ever.
That's a funny story too, is because he pitched for the team in New Hampshire that I was working for at the time.
Fisher Cats.
So the Fisher Cats. No, not the Fisher Cats. The collegiate team down there. Okay. I'm trying to think of the Laconia Muskrats. And so I'm working for them, and I interview Mo, and I asked him. I say, how come you don't throw a cutter? Because at that time he wasn't even trying to develop his cutter, and he's like, well, I want to be my own pitcher. I want to be my own guy. So that year Laconia had the All-Star game, and Mo came down to watch him. So he's sitting in the booth with us, and I asked Mariano. I said, look, I asked your son why he doesn't throw. Why he isn't trying to develop his cutter, and he said he wants to be his own guy. He said, "That son of a bitch don't listen to anybody."
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I haven't heard that part of the story. That's great though. Next time I talk to him, I'll have to bring that up and see if he said I want to be my own guy, or if that translates to, hey, I couldn't actually throw it the way my dad did, so I just had to scrap it because it wasn't good. That's funny.
That's awesome.
Going back to the GOAT pitcher, that's there's so many people to go with. Growing up, I got to play MVP baseball 05 a lot. And so I always played with the Legends team, and Satchel Paige was the number one pitcher. And so after that, I wanted to learn about just his story in general. And I thought it was so cool that he was basically a barnstormer his whole career, made his debut, I think, at like 40 or 43, maybe even 45, and then pitched till he was like 50 with he retired with the Indians. So I just fell in love with his story and how dominant he was. So I'm just gonna go with Satchel Paige because I love his story and just the way he got to dominate in 2 different leagues and was a Hall of Famer and pitched for such a long career.
Was Satchel Paige the individual who got signed? Was it by the Oakland A's as more of like a gimmick to sell tickets, and then they ended up putting him in, and he like dominated in relief for quite a while?
I don't know. He might have been, but I mean,
he was in his 50s or something crazy, and it was just a gimmick to sell tickets, and he was out there just smoking these young kids left and right at like 54 years old or something crazy like that.
Yeah, I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me. I don't know that story, but again, I'm pretty sure he's in the Hall of Fame. But his story, he was just so dominant and so long for everything he did that I could see it being a gimmick and then being like, oh wait, like he can still dominate. So you're gonna pitch tomorrow as well, pal.
I'm going with the guy with 711 complete games, and that's Cy Young. Every day, I just say, God, that is those numbers, man, that he has are just absolutely insane. I mean, I know it was a different time; they were a different breed back then, but So one other question I have for you. One of my biggest things is that before we let you go here, I talk about all the time. People ask me, if you could interview one player ever, who would it be? And my answer is always Jackie Robinson. I would love to sit down for an hour with Jackie Robinson and talk about his life and about baseball. If you could interview one athlete or sit down and talk with one athlete, whether they're still with us or they're gone, whatever, any time in the history of sports, who would you sit down with?
Man, that's an awesome question. Your answer is incredible. Honestly, I'd probably go with Satchel, but since we already talked about him, let me think of somebody else. Let's see here. I think Bob Gibson's interviews are really cool. and he was so dominant where they had to change, the height of the mound because they wanted hitters to at least make contact.
Yeah.
So that's a good one. I remember hearing a quote where they talked about Barry Bonds having the big elbow guard and him being right on the plate. And he was like, if he ever brought that up to me, like I'd smash that MFer. And so that'd be a really cool one. But again,
did you go with a cardinal on purpose?
No, I didn't. No, but I'm glad that got brought up. Yeah, if it wasn't for him, I'd either interview like Mark McGuire,
Ozzie Smith,
Jim Edmonds, Scott Rowland, Mike Mathena, Yaya.
All right, well, RC, it's been great having you on, man. I appreciate you coming on. If there's ever a time where you want to come on again and talk baseball, man, you are always welcome. It's been an absolute pleasure. We love the conversation. Hope you enjoyed being here as much as we have enjoyed having you here. Oh,
I had a blast, guys. Thanks for having me on the show. And then, let's do something in spring training or so. When baseball heats up, just let me know and I'll hop back on. Thanks again for having me.
Hey, definitely, RC, real quick, I just looked it up. Look up the Satchel Paige story when he got signed for a gimmick. He was 59 years old and for the Oakland A's, and it was just for a gimmick to sell tickets when the A's were just way out of contention. I'm reading it right now. Came in and just pitched against my Red Sox and just absolutely was in a rocking chair in between innings. Didn't even give two craps and just went out there and just smoked them.
That's amazing. I can't wait to look that up. Thanks again for having me on the show, guys.
Have a good one, RC.
See you guys.
So that was RC Orlan, man. That was a great interview, man. It's always fun for me, and I know Soup, you're a baseball fan as well, but it's always fun for me when you get to talk to somebody who's been in the game and who has the pedigree that, and has also talked to people who play in the game. When you start asking them about the questions that we like to babble about and joke around about and rant and rave about on the show, and you get their perspective on it, it really kind of sheds light on different subjects for you.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions there too, like the hang out at the bar and drink a beer type of questions too. Like there's a lot of things you could have had in there. I wish we could have asked him, like, what's the worst condition of a sleeping assignment when he was in the minors he was ever a part of. Different types of things like that would have been fun, but definitely have to get him back on and to get into some more of those questions. But he definitely was more, as you could tell, analytics, understood the importance of baseball, carried some weight in terms of the viewpoint of players. So it was good.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we've got Luke G joining the show. Luke G is going to join us. We're going to talk some football. My God. Finally, the Bears are getting rid of Matt Nagy. We're going to see what Luke G thinks about that. And the Lions play the Bears on Thanksgiving. Are they going to send Matt Nagy out with a loss? Probably. Stay with us.
Buck is already saying it'll be 11 win a game if they end up doing it.
Oh, my God. Go to break. All right, we are back. It's Combs and the Soup Boss. We just got done with RC Orlan on the show, and now we're going to bring in Luke G. Luke G, big fan of the 0-9-1 Detroit Lions. And, Luke, your mic is muted. So if you're trying to talk, you're muted here. But
didn't even realize it was muted. I'm glad you noticed that. Okay, I had a brain fart moment. Yes, I am a big fan of that 0-9-1 Lions team. Yes, I am. Die hard to die.
But I have to give it to you. I think they're going to be 1-9-1 after Thursday. You
I do
might
too.
have a good Thanksgiving.
I do too. I think they keep getting close. I hate that it took them so long to figure this out. That you need to run the ball through Swift first and let the quarterback throw as little as possible. I'm tired of watching other teams succeed with this formula, but the NFL wants to be called a passing league. The Bills just took a real horrible loss because they were able to run the ball first and pass second. And it's a formula that has been lost on many fans because of things like, I want to say, I don't know, fantasy football, right? Like it's ruined.
NFL's a fantasy league, man. It sucks.
It sucks. And that's the part of it. Like when I was little, people lined up in front of you and tried to run it down your throat and dared you to stop them. Like it was nothing you could do.
It's why I truly believe, I know Tom Brady, every element of it, but the Patriots didn't succeed unless they had a damn good running back. It took the Corey Dillons, the Antoine Brown, it took the damn good running backs. And now you're seeing Harris, Stevenson, who I was just pumped that they drafted, and even Brandon Bolden coming in. Yeah, they're not your big names, but Bill's got 3 running backs. He's cramming it down their throat, and it's just making that offensive line make it easier for them to protect Mac Jones because you got to worry about the running game. You don't want a running back to run it on you 80 yards and just deplete your confidence.
And look, it's about to be Matt Nagy's last game. I'm picking the Lions 31-3 in this game.
31-3.
They claim that report is false. I saw something that said that.
You know what else he said was false? He said when he was at his son's high school football game this weekend, watching his son play, and they were chanting "Fire Nagy" in the stands while he was sitting there watching his son, that he did not hear the chants.
Yeah, that's baloney.
I mean, they've been chanting that everywhere. I mean, even in the basketball game, they were chanting
the Bulls
Fire
game
Nagy.
last night.
I was like, really?
Nagy said that because he has it is the perfect line that most coaches that know they're on the way out the door. He didn't lie when he said, "I've met with ownership." But the next words that came out of his mouth were completely lies because it said, listen, this is what we're going to do. We're going to wrap it up. Here's going to be a nice little bonus wrapped with a ribbon for you to get the hell out of town as long as you don't say anything dumb. And so, of course,
we have a short week here. You're probably going to lose to the Lions anyway, so we're going to let you lose to the Lions. Then we're going to blame that as to why we're firing you, and we're going to bring on a new head coach.
What happens, and I don't want to upset Luke here, but what happens if out of nowhere, like Fields just has like a monster game?
Well, Fields isn't going to play because of his ribs.
I mean, Dalton has a monster game, and they win like 60-5. Like
I'm actually more worried about Andy Dalton than I was about Justin Fields. I truly am, and it's because with Justin Fields, I saw a guy who had no clue what was going on. He was relying solely on his athletic ability, and I just don't.
I'll let you take it, Combs.
Yeah.
What are you watching, Luke G? What are you watching? What do you mean he had no clue what was going on?
He doesn't, and he's learning the NFL as he's playing. The offensive line ain't helping him. They certainly are not helping him. And they're not running the ball to keep him like how Mac Jones is getting the run going. But when you watch him in a lot of these passes, man, there are a lot of plays where I'm like, damn, that dude's open, guy. You got to see that. And there's a lot of plays where I'm like, this is when you run. Like if there's ever a time for you to go, this was it.
Do you also see the plays where he's putting balls in the perfect spots? Do you see the plays where he's checking down? Do you see the plays where he's in there and he's calling the audibles at the right times? Do you see there's a lot more of those plays than there are the ones that you're talking about?
Yeah, you got a little bias. I'm on the outside looking in.
No.
And because I'm an outsider looking in, I'm looking at it.
We're going to talk about bias. We're going to talk about bias, the guy from with the team that's 0-9-1. We're going to talk about bias.
No, I mean, but you got to understand, when I go into any game, I'm looking at it as if though I'm preparing for the game.
I was just going to say, I don't think you could say anything about bias, Combs. You're talking about a guy with a 0-9-1 team that he's rooting for. If anything, he's probably analyzing everyone's team better.
Every single
what the
one.
hell
He
is
picks
he
them to
going
win
to
every week, Supas. He picks them to win every week.
I didn't pick him to win every week. That's not true. That is not true.
Can we speak of running
You were
quarterbacks
with
real
Buck
quick?
when preseason when he said that they were going to be 11-5. You said, I don't know about 11 wins. You said, but I could see them being somewhere around 9-10 wins. This is going to be a better team. They got you got to understand, they got a new coach. They got a new defensive coordinator.
Guess what,
We've never
Combs?
had a team like this before.
But guess what, Combs?
Jared Goff is going to be good. That's what you said. And now they're 9-1, Luke G.
I said Jared Goff can do what Trey Aikman did and be a game manager. The Lions will be fine because we're going to be able to run the ball. And what they ended up doing instead of running the ball is they put it in the hands of Jared Goff. That was the first mistake. Secondly, let's talk about how crazy my prediction is. We've had 10 games already. Only two of those 10 games, the Lions had no chance. That was the Bengals and the Eagles. If you go through the rest of the games, they easily could have had 6 wins on the season.
It is. I sat there and said it, Luke. I said, how do you not feel more bad for Detroit Lions fans when they sat there and had to watch a NFL record field goal? It took an NFL record field goal to beat them that donked, and most donked balls don't go over, and it's an NFL record. That's how the Ravens beat the Detroit Lions, which at the end of the day, it's still an L, and it sucks.
Right. And if you go back to the next week, you're talking about a kicker who missed a 34-yard field goal, but manages to make his career high 54-yard against the Vikings to beat us the following week. And
the Vikings have gotten 2 wins this year on a field goal. That's more
Luke,
than
are you about to tell me
this?
this team is a couple bounces away from being a playoff team? Is that what you're about to tell me?
I absolutely am not going to say that. In fact, the topic that I had was a little bit different because I think it's something that we need to talk more about as a whole, and that is the NFL needs and should want
to win another title.
Should want the USFL to succeed. They should need and want for the USFL league that is coming in 2022 to succeed. And the evidence that I have for it is the fact that when you look at players who may not be NFL ready, who have went on to say like the Canadian League or that was going to NFL Europe at one point in time, even though I thought the NFL Europe farm system was really stupid because you wasn't really sending nobody over there to develop. You were sending them over there just to have them in case. But in this instance, these new leagues that keep popping up, the NFL is not getting behind them, and they need them. Because from what I'm seeing is you're not having the traditional football that you used to see. The talent that's coming out, look great in college, get to the pros, are not translating, and I can't figure it out. It's so suspect. And to me, with this new league coming, they have to get behind it and support it because it only makes their league better. By virtue of giving them a farming system. They're going to have 8 teams. One of them are going to be the Michigan Panthers that's coming back. Excited for that. But it gives you an opportunity for you to have another evaluation tool to be better. Now, I'm definitely not going to tell you that these leagues are something that's going to change the game, but they are a necessity. If you go through and you look at baseball, which you guys were just talking about a few minutes ago, they have a farming system, and it works. It really does work. There's been a lot of people who's been called up, and there's been people who's played well in the minors who's got valuable playing time and experience because they've had the opportunity. The NFL, as big as it is, all the money it brings in, where is that developmental league? Where's that farming system? They need for the USFL.
It's in the NCAA.
I was just going to say there's 2 reasons why, though I wish for the success of it, Luke. I got to disagree with you because the AAF, which I was a huge fan of, not only had NFL backing, they put the games on the NFL Network. They backed them with financing. I know COVID killed it and everything, but there was one of the coaches for the teams that lived here in where I live in Oklahoma City, and I used to drive him to the airport and stuff when I was making some extra money onto the side. And he's just like, people just don't realize how much we're drowning in the background. It is terrible. It doesn't matter what the NFL's given us. It's just not enough. And 2, the farm system for the NFL, like Combs just said, it's college football. And now those players are going to get paid. That's the farm system. That's what we know. We see it all through. Baseball has a farm system because no one really pays attention to NCAA baseball. But with football, everyone watches NCAA football. That's your farm system because people see it there. They get excited about that college team. I want that player drafted. Go to my team. I would love the USFL to succeed just as much as I wanted the AAF to succeed, but I don't see how you're going to do it unless the NCAA just disbands.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I mean, we always want another football league to succeed because, I mean, look, it's more football. We get to watch more football, and that's never a bad thing. Nothing has proven that it can sustain the interest of people outside of the NFL because it's just simply not the NFL. It's not the same talent level. It's not the same, pool. To me, you get the AFL. I liken it to the WNBA, right? You're getting the same sport. You're getting kind of the same product, but what you're getting is you're getting less talent. You're getting less
Whoa.
interest. You're getting less
From the
people showing up to
WNBA?
games. Yeah.
No.
You think
That-
What do you
less?
mean?
You think the talent in the WNBA
know what?
is the same as the NBA?
The
I think
AAF,
the
the AAF and the
talent-
XFL, what they failed, right? The WNBA is still going strong.
Yeah, the WNBA is still going strong because I think there is talent there. I think that
There's talent for sure.
Like you obviously can't have you can't have a league where it's got the men and women playing basketball per se, because it's a lot of what's the word I want to use, political tape in the way. However, the reason that I make the point that they need to get a full backing and they need for this to succeed is because when they had the backing of the NFL, it was a soft backing. They need to truly get a backing, and they need to say something to the effect of the official NFL farming system, whatever, something to that effect. The reason the XFL, which came out twice, it succeeded in the first time, it succeeded early on because it did something so small as having a freaking camera on a rope, which got adopted by the NFL, and it had those weird names like "He Hate Me" and "The Truth" and stuff like that.
And the kickoff where you just rushed for the ball.
You just rushed for the ball,
which ended up getting botched once the first guy got hurt. But
yeah, which was a terrible idea because they were going to go nuts over it. But even when you go to the AAF, if you look at that, like you said, the pandemic took that out. And yes, I know that he was saying that it was drowning and stuff like that because many of those things that they could do to help those leagues are like use their stadiums. It's more revenues for them to use those stadiums that's not being used on those days and used in that time of the season. That helps.
Well, then you need to get the NFL owners to also own these teams because that's the only way they're going to put as much effort into them and as much money into them as they do with the NFL team.
But that's what they were doing with the AAF. There were certain owners who was like, "Hey, I'll buy my stake into this. I think this."
That's
can
what
work.
they did. Owners in the league itself staked in a ton of money, and there are some teams like the San Antonio one. It's why I think that they deserve. It showed the San Antonio base could support an NFL team because they had to open up the top tier of the stadium and they sold it out, but it wasn't enough. And I guess that's why I fully agree with everything you're saying. But outside of coming straight out and saying this is the farm system of the NFL, I don't understand what more you can do because in the AAF, the owners backed it, the NFL backed it, the NFL gave them slots on the NFL network to be able to have it.
But they didn't let them use stadiums. They let them use places that people don't want to go. There are people right now who will pay an arm and a leg to see their favorite AAF team go and play at Green Bay Packers Lambeau Field. Like there are certain stadiums that people will pay just to get inside for those games. That helps the NFL, it helps the league, and they need to have better back. They were putting people from practice who just came out of school on broadcast in those games. It was no real backing to it like it should have been, and it's because they didn't have the TV deals. But the NFL has to pull to do it. The other thing that I'm looking at is this: when you're talking about these leagues coming in and doing certain things for you and why they need to back it. Let's say you talk about the like you said, the NCAA, and they're getting paid now. That I think is ruin. It's going to ruin, and it's still already showing to be ruining the draft process because there are players who stayed in and it's going to stay in because they can get paid in college, and it's way easier than it would be to jump to the NFL, and then they can still jump to the NFL and make money. And then it's like, hey, what's the point at that point? I'm just saying. At this point, those guys that they're playing, like right now, you got everybody hyping up Malik Willis from Liberty. Oh, yeah, real stiff competition over there. Way to get it done. And I'm just pointing out that at the end of the day, if you got NFL talent levels of talent out there playing, and you get real support from the NFL, it needs to work. It needs to happen.
There's some
I just
players
don't
from
see how it's gonna
AAF that
happen.
got signed to the NFL. It showed it. There's talent there.
Yeah.
I mean, I just outside of the NFL flat out taking the ownership, because then when you are ownership of something, guess what? You are worried about profit. With the AAF, they financially backed it, but they didn't own the property, and therefore they let an owner's own finances end up bearing it, because the owner, he ended up just burying himself in debt. With the USFL, based on what I just looked up, it looks like it's the same thing. It's in based on what you're saying, yes, I guess it could be successful, but it has to be an actual NFL property, because at some point you back it financially more than you did with the AAF because you're getting profit out of it. Just tossing money at something to say that it's going to be a product that helps you out. What does the NFL need help for in terms of a project? It is a product.
But
it is
I
still
think
the most popular sport.
Average NFL team makes $13 million on their marketing deals every year. They need to spend 3 times that on any league that they're trying to start up just to get it started, because they're going to have to draw attention. They're going to have to draw attraction. They're going to have to give people a reason to want to watch, to want to attend, to want to be there. And it's got to be more than just, hey, you've got to come watch these guys who came out of college and couldn't make an NFL roster, so now they're playing. And that's the vision that everybody has, though, when it comes to the XFL,
but it's not,
right?
though, because you're talking about over 300
perception,
kids.
though, Luke. It's
but
perception. Perception is reality. Perception is reality, Luke. And the thought process behind it is, if these guys were that damn good, they would be on an NFL roster, and they're not. And so
that's not true.
I agree with you,
true.
Luke. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just telling you what the perception is, and people are out there, and people are thinking this. So that's why it doesn't. That's why people aren't watching it as much. That's why people don't watch the NBA. Not because there's not the WNBA, I should say. Not because there's not talent in the WNBA, but because people don't feel like they're as good as the guys in the NBA. They don't feel like it's as talented. And I beg to differ. Like, I watched the Chicago Sky. I watched them win the WNBA championship. I enjoyed watching some of the WNBA games I watched.
Parade.
I was. It was me and 2 of my friends. But
they both were coaches on the team.
People don't believe in the product because they don't believe the talent is there. Until they prove that, hey, the talent is there, it's not going to happen. The NFL isn't going to spend what they need to spend to make that happen.
Let me switch gears for you a little bit. Let me give it to you a different perspective, right? If Kanye West goes out here and cut a bunch of patches in his head, and all of a sudden everybody goes out here and cut a bunch of patches in their head, that's marketing. If a certain actor can be on there and say certain things about this product and it sells, it does this all the time. What I'm saying is this. And I think, Soup make a very good point about them having to have a serious backing behind it, because they are more concerned with trying to make football work in Europe, a game that most players despise and do not want to play in because it's ridiculous. And they're so concerned with making that game work. Put that same energy into one of these leagues. It's not about the perception of the fans. You got fans who want to fire Matt Nagy. That's a joke. Just really quick. It's a joke. But you put that same
Those fans
energy.
Are just idiots.
I mean, just crazy, ludicrous. I want to keep him as long as he's going to be there.
Coach of the year, baby.
Hey, Luke G, win a game, then you can speak on my team.
Oh my God! See, the jealousy is already coming out. We're going
to win a game, Luke,
on Thursday.
He won a game. The Lions won a game the same day the Pittsburgh Steelers won a game, okay?
Exactly.
They won the game on the same day.
They just didn't lose the game.
Yeah, we just didn't lose it. But I'm just saying, I'm just pointing out to you, if they put that same backing behind one of these leagues, and I'm not talking about a soft back, they're gonna have to have a stake in it. But I'm telling you that there are little things that they can do, like have the games in the stadium, because they're not being used no way. They're running tours. I know here in Michigan, Ford Field runs tours in the off season to kind of help with costs, where you can walk through the whole stadium and see what the experience of being, walk on the field. Like, they're doing that. How about you actually put somebody in there? And I'll give you a perfect example. We have our high school teams, they play at Ford Field. Them games make big money. Just because people want to go in the Ford Field. You can do the
Sure.
same thing with this.
I got another thing that's not been brought up in this. And being a big Patriots fan, seeing the amount of players that have come up through this roster through another aspect that we're not even thinking about. And when we talk about farm system, there is an actual type of system. There is a thing called the practice squad. And the Patriots have actually utilized the practice squad, as I know other teams have. My challenge, I think, that I see, even if the NFL were to back a league like USFL or AAF, if they had done it more and actually put ownership, is trying to then convince the coaches to say, hey, listen, the players on your practice squad are not who you want to go after first. The players that are playing in the USFL are going to go. The coaches aren't going to like it because, A, they have to share them. Though technically there are rules about being able to claim players off of other teams' practice squads are there, but you're not getting to analyze them as much. It's less of a pool, and you don't have your own coaching staff overseeing it. I can see coaches that really take ownership of every element of what they do, the Bill Belichick's, and other coaches like that, the Jim Harbaugh. They're not going to want to have to share talent pool with other teams. Why the hell does Jim Harbaugh want to share talent pool with Tomlin in the Steelers? There's no way. They're going to want their own practice squad. So now you're going to have to convince your coaches, which at the end of the day, the coaches aren't going to quit their jobs if you do it right. If the NFL says, hey, listen, this is the way we're doing it, this is the way we're doing it, but you're going to piss off a lot of coaches, which then at the same time, they're going to gripe to their owners, and then the owners are going to turn around and go, well, hey, my coach is pretty pissed off about this.
Yeah, but I think what you're pointing out is more of a hypothetical than anything else. And the reason I say that is because you have to keep in mind, coaches are always going to go where talent is. If you're talented and you're playing, they're going to go there. It happens in every sport: baseball, soccer, football.
Yeah, but
basketball.
Instead of that talent being under your control and a majority of it being under your control, you have to go there. And if you are a Baltimore Ravens who's competing against the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cincinnati Bengals in a tough division or like the NFC West or something, you now don't have control over that player property. You have to compete with a team that is going to have just as much fair share.
Yeah, I think, like I said, to me, that's all like. It's cute in reality, but to me, I'm going to go where the talent is, and it does not matter. And if it's talent there, it's talent there. The problem is you're each year you're getting more and more people who are entering the draft portal for the NFL, and only 200 and something of them are getting picked. And then you have all this scrambling for undrafted free agents. And the NFL has lost its mind because they keep trying to expand their season, which I think is ridiculous that they keep on trying to expand this season because it's clear now that most of these teams don't want to play.
But why? Look, are you a wrestling guy? Do you like the WWE?
No.
Okay, so here's where I'm going. Here's where I'm going with this. You had the WWE for a long time has been the biggest player in wrestling. They've had other factions that have tried, like WCW. They've had all sorts of different ones that try, ECW, that have tried. The problem is they couldn't sustain success because eventually all the talent landed in the WWE, right? But now they've got this thing called AEW, and the writers in the WWE are terrible. The product is terrible. So now a lot of people are going over to AEW finally. Finally, people are leaving WWE. Well, the reason why that translates here is because the same thing is going to happen with the USA or whatever you want to call it, whatever USFL. Other league that they have. And they're going to take that talent, and when there are really good players that show up, they're going to end up in the NFL next year. So you're not going to be able to see your favorite player in the USFL next year. You're not going to be able to sustain watching your favorite player play on the same team for 5 or 6 years because your favorite player is going to end up on an NFL team somewhere. Whether he ends up as a bench player or as a starter is another story. But that's what's going to happen, and that's why those other leagues aren't going to be able to sustain and aren't going to be able to stay in business because the best talent is always going to land in the NFL. And until that's not a thing, the NFL is always going to be the premier product, and nothing else is ever going to succeed.
Unless you can build a 32-team USFL league where one team is there for the team that farms to the team, like you said, a farm system.
How about this? Well, we relegate.
If I'm a OKC Cowboys or whatever fan for USFL, knowing that those players go to the Dallas Cowboys, then it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I'm going to root for these guys, and then I'll root for them on the Cowboys. I'll be a Cowboys fan, which just made me vomit in my mouth saying it. But that's the only thing. But to Combs' point, like, you're going to get excited to go see a player and everything, and if they're the premier talent, who knows? Like, they're just going to be gone, and then it's going to go to some random team that you have no control over.
And then
I think you're overthinking it. I think you guys are overthinking it. One, the comparisons is bad because everybody knows.
I think we're thinking it through completely.
I think we're just
in terms
defeating
of
your theory. You're not like it
in reality.
No, listen. Let's be honest. We just compare a fictional sport to a real one. Let's get that out the word.
We didn't do any of that, by the way. There was one
How
guy.
about we take something from Europe? Since they want Europe so bad in the NFL, why don't we take some from Europe and we relegate any team that starts out a season 0-9-1 and we make them go play in the USFL and we bring the USFL's best team to the NFL? I like that theory.
Listen, here's a theory for you. You're trying to delegate unreal sports to a real sport. That's one. And then two, Combs, you're treating it like the player died. If he's my favorite player, I'm going to follow him where he goes. It's a reason why.
No, you're not.
No.
Luke G. If your favorite USFL player becomes a Chicago Bear, you rooting for your favorite USFL player?
I'm still a fan. Yes.
You lying out your ass.
I wish I was. Listen, hold on. Listen.
You talked about Luke. You talked about Combs giving a fake element. I gave you a real element to start this conversation. The AAF was backed by the NFL. They put money in the NFL. NFL owners backed certain teams.
Not fully though.
They put them on the NFL Network. They did a lot of stuff, and yet they were good players that still got on NFL rosters.
I didn't watch one AAF game, not one.
That's a reality, though. I gave you a reality, and you're saying that it's that we're living in fantasy world.
No. I'm not saying y'all because you're right. The only one who made that comparison was Combs. And we know that Combs at times has a little bit too much coffee. So that really is
what. So real people don't go to the WWE events. Real people don't go to the ECW or WCW event. Yes, they do. They're real fans. The same fans that fill the football stadium.
What I'm saying is this: you're getting off topic. I want to stay.
I love watching Combs get pissy over wrestling, over scripted soap operas.
Exactly right. Like it's a scripted soap opera.
I'm not mad about wrestling. Jesus Christ.
But what I'm saying is this. Yes, I still root for certain people. So, like when Ndamukong Suh left the Lions and he went to the Dolphins, I was still rooting for Ndamukong Suh. I'm a huge Warren Sapp fan. I hate the Raiders, but when he went to the Raiders, I love Warren Sapp still. And I was like, look, this is Warren Sapp. And when your players move, the same thing happened with LeBron James. When he went to Miami, most of them Cleveland fans who's acting all salty were still LeBron James fans. And when he went to LA, they were still LeBron James fans. If you are a fan of it, you're going to be a fan of it. My only concern that I'm saying to this is this. Having a supportive backing is one thing, but having a full backing is different. And one of the things that I'm saying is they're putting a lot of time and energy over into expanding football to Europe. And I'm saying, look, let's say we do it the way you said do it, boss, where you said, hey, let's have it to where each one of these teams have this farm system to their team. Cool, do it that way. But whatever you do, back them. If they do it that way and they know that, hey, this team is only farming players for, you say the Dallas Cowboys or the Bears or whatever, great. It's still a backing that helps them succeed, and it helps the NFL succeed because whether we know it or not, there are more and more players coming out entering the draft that is getting lost in the shuffle. And I'm telling you that the talent, like over the last few years, the talent levels that look like they should be killing it in the league are not. And it's been happening since freaking you like Sepp after he got arrested? Was that the one with the prostitutes? I think he got arrested with.
Yeah, I love how you have to say. Was it? Which
one? Which one?
Which one of the charges?
I couldn't remember.
The first five, I was okay with.
I couldn't remember what he got arrested for. Like, was it prostitutes he got arrested for? Or something like that?
Yeah,
I can't remember.
The Super Bowl.
I just couldn't remember what it was. That's all. But I'm saying, if they did it the way you said, boss, that backing is huge. It allows for them to still do their agenda of expanding their league. And I think that the mistake in what they did in adding that 17th game is hurting them right now because there are teams taking games off, and I think it's stupid. It's one of the reasons. It's one of the reasons why.
I
Really?
disagree.
You think it's helping them?
100% disagree with you, and I think it's a whole nother topic that maybe we need to come back and talk about it. But I fully believe adding the 17th game or the 18th week is going to actually change a lot of things and make it better for teams that get into the playoffs to prep better by taking a week extra before off, then going in to week 18, going and playing and not losing any of their momentum going into the playoffs.
You don't believe that? You don't believe that teams are dropping the game?
No. Who's dropping a game on purpose? And besides Detroit Lions, who are letting record NFL field goals go through the uprights.
You slid that joke in there well timed.
Yeah, I know, and that's what I do. I'm good at it. But who's dropping a game on purpose?
I believe that the Bills dropped the game on purpose.
You truly think that the Bills, who have let me give you this,
they're
as
fighting
a
for
Pats
number
fan,
one in
who
the
have watched,
AFC East,
who have watched 20 years of getting their asses kicked up and down by Bill Belichick, and finally had the ability to watch Tom Brady leave, to put an MVP caliber quarterback in there to win the AFC East, and then this year
they lose to the Jags.
And what did they do?
To the Jags.
So you're saying they dropped it? They said, forget it. It's okay to drop a game here or there. The Patriots are now in first place in the AFC East. You don't lose games and let a team like the Patriots be able to give that ability.
I think what I see is this. What I see is this. I see a team, and I see this week in and week out, where a team who should win is not winning. There's no reason that the Bucs should be losing to bottom feeding teams. There's no reason
but they're putting their starters out there. So you're saying they're putting their starters out there, and the starters are only playing?
No, I'm saying this. I'm saying one. I'm trying to keep us on topic, but I'm trying to say this.
Welcome to the world of the soup boss. We don't go on topic.
That's man hour.
Hey, you know that they sell out Wembley Stadium every damn time the Jaguars or Dolphins play there? Sell it straight out. Tell me about not putting a team in London. Off topic.
No. Listen, truthfully, the London games are always going to suck because they want football there. It's evident. We got a Roar of the Lions UK, where I'm amazed at how much they know about the team and the city. And I'm like, and I really rock with them and stuff, and they know a lot about the game. But
I got connections in London who learned from watching the Dolphins, who already tell me that the Patriots suck, and they don't actually know anything about the Patriots except for that they're Dolphins fans.
Look, you've come on this show today. You've dogged my wrestling. You've talked about the Detroit Lions and how they should have won a game even though they haven't won a game. You've given the soup boss a reason to boast about his damn Patriots being in first place. What are you doing? Did you just come on here with the idea of pissing me off?
I came on here with the idea of giving you something to think about, and the reality is this. When you're looking at it, and I think that the Super Bowl made a very good point about having it where you say, hey, these players on this team, like we getting the Michigan Panthers back, right? Make that be a farming team for the Lions. Or if the Patriots decide that they want to have their farming team be,
I do like that idea.
I mean, just to give them something to survive, because what it does is it can only listen. 21 different teams this year have went through 2 or more quarterbacks. That's nuts.
There are now, as of this past weekend, there are 49 different quarterbacks that have started a game for the NFL this year.
That's nuts.
49.
Yeah.
That's nuts. And you're talking about something that can really help. And plus, they always talk about player safety, right? What if you had the ability to be like, hey, you're not ready. Go down to like the Patriot building or something. I don't know. Like,
but see, you got to limit it like they do in baseball, though. You've got to limit your, because I don't want to see, you know what, Andy Dalton, you're no good, and we don't want you here, starting in the NFL no more. Go play in our minor leagues after playing for 15 years in the league and sucking.
No, you do have rules to it though.
But they do a method of that I brought up. That is the practice squad. You're not doing well here, but we're going to go on the practice squad. That'll allow you to be able to build on certain fundamentals and things that we know that we want, that can give you the skill set that when we're ready to call you up into
doesn't allow you to play game speed though, Soup. I've agreed with you most of the time, but I mean, I think that where Luke G's coming from with the farm system, I think that's a great idea. I think it does develop players better than a practice squad does, because it gives you game simulated speed as opposed to.
Get to unless you put 32. You USFL
yeah,
teams,
no, I agree.
You don't get to control what happens, and that's the difference.
Look, every other sport does it. Why can't football? Hockey does it. The baseball does it. Basketball's got the G League.
Yep.
Why
Drew
can't
brought
the
that up,
NFL do it? The NFL could absolutely do it.
Because it's called the NCAA football. We brought that up. Let's circle this all around.
But
the NCAA football has exciting games with kids that are ready for the NFL level that are getting paid money.
But all of these minor leagues are for players after they get out of college. All the other sports have it.
If you were to build the USFL to a 32-league minor league,
you don't need 32
system,
teams.
If you were to do that right now, you're telling me that it is going to shift away from the focus of the NCAA football that has hundreds of years of fan sets, generations of families that root behind them. You know this, Combs, with
no,
things
but you
like
can run
Ohio
it. You
State
can run it
Michigan
in season and
that.
have it be successful. You can run it in minor league football stadiums and have it be successful.
But do you think that let's say you have a USFL, just for the heck of it, Luke, let's just say we throw a 32 USFL completely owned by the NFL farm system. You're telling me that if a kid is blowing it up and is on the front page of ESPN for Alabama or Ohio State or even Michigan or Notre Dame, Combs, that kid should not have as much presence or attention, or we're going to stop paying attention to them compared to a USFL team?
We're not saying.
What if you took a guy what if you took a guy like, you're talking about like a guy like Trey Lance right now, who's in a bad situation in San Francisco, right? Because they've got a starting quarterback, they've got a better team than what their record shows, like the Lions do, and they have a place for Trey Lance to go and actually play against defenses, and where they can actually go and they can fill minor league stadiums just like you do with minor league baseball, where you only get 5,000 or 6,000 fans per game. Same thing with minor league hockey. I used to have season tickets for the Manchester Monarchs and go watch the Manchester Monarchs all the time, which were the minor league for the Los Angeles Kings on the exact opposite side of the country. Like, so you could have, but I do agree, and I disagree with you, Luke. Like, I think you would have to, if you're going to do it that way, you have to have one team for each NFL team, because you can't share. Maybe you could. I guess.
I mean, you could do it in regions. Couldn't. You can do it in regions, but even if you did it with the 32 teams, whatever you do, back it. And I'm just saying, and I'm not saying that they're going to overlook it, but let's go through the list. There have been a lot of players who's come out of college who's lit the college world up, aka Reggie Bush. He was amazing. He's okay. He's okay in the NFL. It's okay. You got people like Jamarcus Russell who lit up in the NCAA.
Right, and you can do this up and down about who's lit up.
I'm just saying, but the reality is this.
But every single player that lights up the NFL is actually from the NCAA. There's no high school to NFL player like the NBA has. We don't have that.
No, but it's not. But you know what we can have, though? We can have a system that gives them game speed, game time, plan to see it happen, and that's the reality.
And I'll tell you right now, as a Bears fan, I would have loved to watch Justin Fields learn under somebody other than Matt Nagy, who was in his final year of his contract, and there was no way he was saving it. I would have loved to watch Justin Fields in a minor league system, learning under a different coach.
I'm not disagreeing with that element, because like I've said, with the AAF, I was watching some amazing stuff. St. Louis backed that team. Like I said, San Antonio, they had to open the upper tier of that stadium, and they sold it out. They were literally sold a stadium that doesn't even have an NFL team. To your point, Luke, about how it has to be in those. They sold that out. They sold out the old St. Louis Rams stadium out in those teams. The New York Guardians weren't even playing at. They were playing at some smellier place than where the New Jersey teams already play, and they were still selling that out. They were selling out those games and didn't have it. All I'm doing by pressing these points is given the reality that it's going to take more than just, hey, NFL completely own it. In fact, there's a lot of things to overcome. And I'm telling you, the payment that college students are getting now, if college students never got paid, I think you have way more of a leg. The NFL should have maybe done this 10 years ago and gone with it. But now that college students are going to get paid and paid by boosters, paid by companies to rep their items and everything like that, and they're getting scholarships to go there for free and everything, that's more lucrative for a kid coming out of high school.
But
to
it's
your
worse
point,
for the NFL. It's worse for the NFL because they can get paid. Like I stated earlier, you're going to have more kids staying in, which means they're going to get more wear and tear. You're going to get.
If you're telling me that you are a player for Ohio State and you get paid $2
Oh, let's
million,
not talk about Ohio State because they don't need a farm system.
let's say you're a kid at Baylor and it gets a little over $1 million, which down in that area in Waco, the armpit of friggin' Texas, is a lot of money. Let's say you get paid $1 million as a player at Baylor, and yeah, you get paid $1 million, but that ups your viewing, and therefore, and if you play well to earn it, and an NFL team will draft you, and you'll get $20 million. You think that's going to keep that player out of college? Hell no! That player's going to jump the hell all over that.
I think
you should have known better than to bring up Ohio State to a Michigan guy.
It makes no freaking sense. No sense. But I mean, the only time they ever win is when they cheat. We're gonna leave it alone. Okay. But I think you're painting a scenario that's perfect. I think you're painting a perfect scenario that fits your argument. But the reality is this: players are now, the fact that they're getting paid, are picking and choosing when they want to come out. You're not going to have like Andrew Luck. If he's getting paid, you think he's going to still come out and go, "Yeah, I want to go to the Colts." Or if a team is sitting up there, let's say the Lions is picking first overall, and you telling me Archie Manning sitting up there and he's like, "I could stay in school another year, get me some money, got a rich family." Yeah, I think I'll pass on the Lions. Like, they're going to be making business decisions that they wasn't able to do before because it was a privilege to be in the NFL.
You could have paid Baker Mayfield $10 million a year at OU, and trust me,
he would have never left. He would have never left.
Being the number one pick and proven that he was considered the best at the number one pick. That man rubs his testicles up and down the state of Oklahoma to prove that he's the goddamn man sent from God himself, because he was the number one pick by Cleveland when people didn't think it. Are you kidding? Like, I don't know. I still think the mentality of young men at the age of around 20 to 21 who could say, I'm the top pick in the NFL. I'm going to get a guaranteed contract. I'm going to get additional endorsements. And you have an agent whispering in your ear who knows they're going to get 5-10% of an NFL contract and marketing and everything like that, and guaranteed contracts, as opposed to an NIL, which is still a damn good amount that some of these kids can make, but nowhere near as much. You're missing the most important element.
I don't have the pressure to just say, I want to be this team's first overall pick. We've seen Eli Manning puke in his throat and just hold on to it, hoping he died because he didn't want to play for San Diego.
And he still found a way to get out of that element.
Right.
Players are still going to be able to do that and still make their money.
Yeah, but the difference is,
if you tell a player you go back to college where you're only getting $1 to $2 million a year, but you get hurt and then your draft amount plummets. If you tell a player, if you come out of college this year and you are a top 10 pick, and you'll get a guaranteed X amount of dollars, even if that means that you're not playing for a contender, what makes you think then they're going to stay for another $1 million?
Because you know why?
If you play really well, then you're still got to come out. Guess what? To a shitty team in the top 10.
Yeah, but guess what?
No matter what, if you're a damn good player, you're going to a shitty team.
Listen, if I don't want to play for a team, I have more incentive to hold off. I'm not hurting for anything. And I'm telling you, as a person who played college football.
To what? To then brown bag it in your next year in college, you get into the middle of the second round draft pick and get way less money.
The part that you're missing is the NFL system worked the way it worked so much, and why people wanted to be the first overall pick is because they didn't have money. They were broke when Rosen came out. All they kept talking about is he don't care about football because his family's rich. And most of those other kids who come out who want to play football, they're not rich. They're not even paying for school themselves. They're there trying to earn scholarships, and they're there trying to get money. And they leave. Maurice Claret was trying to go to the NFL at the one season because he was broke. He had no money.
Luke, if you're a Michigan fan, if you're a fan of any big collegiate team, if you want to sit here and say that top tier players are broke, and you want to look me in the eye and tell me top tier college players are broke before the NIL system, you're full of it.
No,
you and I both know man-to-man, those players are getting paid money. They're getting
but they're not making
them.
millions.
They're getting places.
They're not making millions.
But they're not going to make 1 to 2 million and then be told you're going to go in the first round and get $20 million.
1 or 2 millions. It's not about that. It's about the fact of it that you're
to hold out and get what? To hold out and do what?
Because to hold out and give yourself a better chance of being with a team you want to be with for your brand.
A better chance to drop in the draft to get down into a shittier team, to a better team. Listen, you get less money.
Listen, going later has proven to be better for most people. It's the reason why Mac Jones looks better right now. If Mac Jones would have went to say Jacksonville, we're probably trying to figure out what the hell is wrong with Jacksonville. If Mac Jones had went to say the Jets and he went second overall, we're probably screaming, what the hell is wrong with Mac Jones and the Jets? But guess what? He didn't get to go there. He went later. The same thing happened with Patrick Mahomes. He went later. He didn't go to the bottom feeding team.
So you're saying that every single player that's been willing and open to go early in the first round, knowing they'd be a number 1 pick or something, they were doing it because they knew the situation was good for them, or they were dead broke.
No. I'm telling you that every player before the NIL hit,
because I'm tell you that's bullshit.
No. Every player before the NIL hit that was trying to go first overall were going for the ability to have that contract, to have that money, because you were going to get more money being that pick. And I'm telling you right now, if Matthew Stafford could have went to any other team besides the Lions, he would have done it. And I'm telling you, he couldn't do it because there was no way for you to go.
And if Matthew Stafford holds out and plays another year at Georgia and gets $2 million a year and chances getting hurt, or plays to the top level to get the number 1 pick again, guess what? Chances are he's still going to get picked by Detroit or the New York Jets. If you could tell me that waiting a year guarantees you a chance for a better opportunity to guarantee it, but nothing guarantees. It's the whole Trevor Lawrence situation. He should have waited out and held on. Why? If you're still a damn good player, you're getting money now in the NFL. That's now not under the table. But you still, if you're going to be good, you're still going to end up getting put on a crap team. The crap teams get the higher draft picks. That's the way it goes.
The crap teams get the higher draft picks. But the part that you are missing is you're talking about people who can be the first overall pick, maybe the second overall pick, now looking at it and making business decisions that they would not have made in the past because they would not have been getting this money under the table. Now they can legitimately make millions of dollars. As you heard Combs point out, between boosters, endorsements, they can make all types of money, right? And now they can sit there and say, you know what? For example, like they can sit there and say, hey, I heard that the Houston Texans owner is a douchebag and he's sexist, and I don't agree with that. Yeah, I think I'll hold out. I'll go and play another year, make me some money over here, and still be successful. But what you're not seeing right now is
the only players that get that element of being guaranteed that thought process tends to be the number 1 pick. So we're talking about one kid. Who gets to know who the one kid is. Most of the time, like there was no question it was Trevor Lawrence. Like when Baker got picked, it was a shock. So yes, it's not guaranteed, but most of the time, this is one kid. If you told Mac Jones, "Hey Mac," there's a good chance because all the draft experts put Mac Jones in the top 5.
Who's in a better situation?
Right, and I'm making my point here. Mac Jones was told you're going to be in the top 5. And look at the top 5 teams and the scenarios and the quarterbacks that went there. It was fully expected that Mac Jones was going to the top 5. But you know what he didn't do? Didn't go, I can make about $1 million or $2 million by staying in Bama. I don't want to go to one of those. And what happened? He stayed and is now playing for the Patriots, and it's going to make great amount of money.
The NIL was not in place.
The
NIL was not in place. You're using an example where the NIL was not in place.
He could be there this year if he decided to be in college
if he stayed this year with Alabama will go on and win another championship. They probably gonna do it this year. They go on to win it.
He would have made millions.
He would have made millions, and then he would have probably been a number 1 pick, right?
And they were
he would probably been number 1 pick, right?
All right. You guys been yelling at each other for about 10 minutes now, and don't get me wrong, Luke G. I appreciate it when Soup Boss yells at somebody other than me.
This is true.
So I appreciate you getting his blood boiling, but look, I see where both sides are coming from. There are some things I like that Luke G has said. There's some things I like Soup Boss has said. There are some things like the Lions suck that I don't care about what Luke G says.
The only point I'm just trying to make is it's not as simple
I'm not
a
saying simple. I'm not saying simple.
If the NFL backs it, you're going to have success.
I'm not saying
almost
simple.
bet that
I'm not saying
even
simple.
if they backed it, you probably are still going to look at a really, really long road, and the NCAA already has a foundation that could give them a run for their money.
But
if they did it 10 years ago, it's different. That's the only thing I'm saying.
But if you look at a lot of those other leagues, one of the biggest reasons they failed was because they did go out and get failed NFL players in most of those cases. They wasn't going out tackling a lot of those old college players who went undrafted and stuff. They went out and got a lot of former players who should not have been in there playing, really should not have been playing. And yeah, it was a more watered down product. What I'm just saying is this: when you back this system, when you go out and you back this, if you fully get behind it, you do things to help it out, like allow them to play in these stadiums that many of us want to go in any damn way. And we can't get tickets because somebody has bought up 100 of them, right? Yeah, you really should have that support. That's all I'm pointing out. And I'm not saying it's got to be so simple. I'm not saying it's got to be something that's just, it's a walk in the park. It's the same way that it took for it to really spark in NFL Europe, because American people was not getting up this morning or that early to watch a London game. And many of them still don't. But yet they're still doing it. And they was losing money on that game a lot. And it started picking up steam. So it's just one of them things where is it going to take time? Yeah, but I'm not making it simple. I'm just simply saying they need to back them.
At the end of the day, though, let's admit it. The Rock now owns the XFL. So we take Combs' whole world with the wrestling. And the Rock in the XFL is going to own the world. The NFL's done.
Oh, God.
It's all USFL's done. NCAA. The Rock owns the world.
All right, Luke, we're gonna head to a break so Supas's blood can come back down.
Luke. That was
I did too. I did.
That was some Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp stuff right there. So that was good.
Oh
100%.
man, don't
100%.
ever compare anybody to Shannon Sharp. That guy is such trash.
Oh man, Shannon be talking.
What if I was
truth.
calling myself Shannon Sharp? What are you trying to say? Me or Luke? Now I'm going to defend.
I'm
Luke.
saying Shannon Sharp is trash. Shannon Sharp is trash.
He talking truth
trash.
sometimes, but you can tell when they tell Shannon Sharp to argue something he don't believe in, because he don't know what the hell to say. Yeah, it's very
scripted, and here it was just real.
It was just real, right?
couple brothers having a beer.
A pleasure. pleasure.
Why don't you tell the people? I know most of them already know where they can find you, but why don't you tell everybody who doesn't know where they can find you?
Hey, check me out on Luke G's Field Review, where I talk all things Detroit Lions football, man. I definitely do film study. I am staying away from the draft until the season is fully over. It's just ridiculous at this point to talk about it. It's too early. You don't know who's coming out, right? But no, we don't. But yeah, check me out over there. Hit me up on Twitter at Phil G's. It's the same thing as at Phil G's for Instagram. I just got on there. I have no clue what the hell I'm doing. It's way more complicated than I thought. But yeah, just check me out. I definitely talk that, and I love coming over here talking different stuff with Man Hour, because I guarantee you they're not going to agree with me, but it's so entertaining. It was a pleasure, Soup Boss. Had so much fun with you, man, for real.
For sure, same here, buddy.
So it's only a pleasure with Soup Boss.
Well,
I see where you're coming from, Luke G.
Combs, until this Thursday,
Combs brought his wrestling knowledge into the conversation.
He really did do that, but until this Thursday game is going on, he's the enemy for right now. He's got to be. He has to be the enemy.
All right, Luke. We'll talk to you next week, bud. By the way,
yes,
Lions
sir.
suck. Have a good one.
Yeah,
I like that, Luke.
Little does he know if Nagy's still in there, you're actually on his side, Combs. You want the Lions to be crap out of him.
God. No, look, Matt Nagy's getting fired either way it goes. Matt Nagy getting fired either way it goes. I don't care. And if he doesn't get fired, I'm climbing a bell tower and he's going to get lit up anyway. We'll be back. Give us 2 minutes. Unbelievable. All right, so we are back. I'm watching a Blackhawks game in the background on break.
I was just gonna say, unbelievable. What? I'm like, what?
No, Marc-Andre Fleury made a beautiful save. The Hawks had a breakaway. The guy pulled him down, and there was no call on the play. Should have absolutely been a hook.
Yeah,
but
well,
whatever.
Because he plays for Chicago, so there you go.
Yeah, it's true. They're in Calgary too. So anyway,
it's the only thing they have to celebrate up in Calgary.
Yeah, it's a true story. But
sorry,
so
Canadian
look,
fans.
man, those were two really good interviews. The interview with RC, and then always our weekly segment with Luke G there, which I mean got a little off the handle at the end. I mean, you guys are going back and forth. Good stuff though.
That's
Lots of
just
good
normal
stuff.
conversation between like you and I. You just got to be on an outside looking in that time, being like, "Holy crap, what the hell is this crazy?"
I did. I stopped for a little bit, man. I was texting Buck while you guys were talking, be like, "Hey, man, you got to clip this stuff. Make sure this stuff goes up on YouTube tomorrow." I was texting back and forth with the RC in between, letting him know that there's a team on the north side here that needs a lefty out of the bullpen. He said sign him up. So, I know the Cubs ownership likes to listen to this show. So, hey, you got a lefty out of the pen. I need 1%. I need 1% of his contract since I, am now his agent apparently.
And if they try to go lefty and it's his spot in the batting lineup, he bats right-handed. He can throw him for a little loop. Like wait, the pitcher's still coming out. Oh, right-handed.
Absolutely. All right, so there are a lot of stuff that we had planned on getting to. We're clearly not going to because of the stuff. So one of the things I definitely want to get to, man, is the news of the day. Matt Nagy being rumored to be ousted. We'll say rumored. I still believe it's true, but rumored to be ousted after Thursday's game. What's your initial thoughts?
I mean, it took him long enough. I mean, the initial thought was, we all saw this coming. I think it was more of about, it was about time. Almost everyone in their mother knew that at least at the end of the season, Nagy was gone. If it wasn't the end of the season, it was going to be at some point. My only thought process was, and I know that there was great answers, especially in Sports Soup, about why, I asked this question, but I said, why, if you know why wait? Why bother? Just cut. And people are saying, hey, you just let him finish out. You give the interim a week and a half, blah, blah, blah. If you know you're going to, and I work in HR, so I get it. Like I hate when I know that someone's going to be walked out the door on a Friday and it's Wednesday. I hate it.
Yeah.
But I understand there are reasons behind it, but if a report is leaked out and it is true, just let him go. Like an interim coach is going to be stepping up to play anyways. Just let him go. Like, because honestly, I'm asking you this question, Combs. What happens if the Bears win? I'm not kidding, like 53-10 or something crazy. What happens if the next day they fired? Does that just give Nagy then a great opportunity somewhere else?
Yeah.
Do people in Chicago also go, wait a minute, we were really good for a game. Why are you all of a sudden firing him?
Look, fans are stupid. Fans are going to be like, of course, that's just what they do. Just like the fans were chanting for Andy Dalton after he threw that touchdown pass, and when he came into the game after Fields got hurt, they're chanting Andy Dalton's name in Chicago. Like, it's just stupid. Just stop. But the reason why the ownership didn't come out after Matt Nagy said that, no, I haven't been told that yet. He's saying the politically correct thing. And the reason why ownership hasn't come out and said, no, we haven't told him that, or yes, we have told him that, is because what if they're thinking like you? What if we win 53-10? Then we could keep him on, and we never said that we were going to fire him. It was just a rumor. But
Nagy knows he's getting fired if he's already talked to them.
Or if we lose, we can say, yeah, but I mean, look, if you're Matt Nagy and you're like, oh, you're about to lose your job and you go out and you destroy the team and they're like, no, never mind, we'll keep you. You're going to stay. You're Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy's never getting another head coaching job.
Do you think if they win like you think win 53-10, that he's going to be like, awesome, I get to stay on knowing? Do you really think he thinks he's going to coach beyond the season?
I don't think. Do you think he gets another head coaching job ever?
A head coaching
after
job?
This display here?
I mean, I always want to say no in these situations, but you've seen some crazy things in this league.
Yeah.
There are teams that get pretty desperate.
But I don't think he ever I think he'll get a coordinator job. I think he'll get a coordinator position right away, actually. I don't think he'll get another head coaching gig in the NFL ever again because of what we've seen here. He's overwhelmed as a head coach. He's
really
overwhelmed
is.
as a head coach, and you see it every week. Like he says he's not calling plays, right? But we saw it this weekend when it's 3rd and 1. We throw a 40-yard bomb, then we run the punt team onto the field, and then they bring the punt team off, and he's going crazy on the sideline because his headset's not working because he can't get the play in time. So he's obviously calling plays still, even though he says he's not. Like this guy, people are like, oh, well, he said he's not, he's not getting fired. So that, maybe if he doesn't know, look, he lies. That's what they do. They don't tell the media the truth. It's part of the game. How many times? Yeah, but even Bill Belichick doesn't tell the media the truth. Was it Tom Brady was on the IR every week or on the injured report every week?
Heck yeah.
You know what I mean? So they don't tell the truth. But Matt Nagy, look, you don't fire him ahead of Thanksgiving for the simple fact of it's a 4-day week. So it's 3 days to prepare for a game. You're not going to do that to an interim head coach. You talk to Matt Nagy, you say, look, we're going to allow you to coach this game because we don't want to do this to one of because it's going to be somebody on his coaching staff that's going to step in the interim. Right. So we don't want your guys. So, and look, Matt Nagy's a stand-up guy. Matt Nagy will take that bullet. He'll coach the team. I really think they're going to lose this week to Detroit. I thought that before this past week in Baltimore. I thought they would lose to Detroit in this game. And then I thought that would be the end of Matt Nagy. But I feel like you can't do that to an interim head coach. And so no matter what the result of this game is, even if they win 53-10, I think Matt Nagy is out the door. Yeah. I just do. And it's about time. It's 12 weeks too late.
And when you look at that division, obviously the dominance of the Packers, part of me almost wonders too, if you do this, seeing Minnesota still struggle, even with having, I don't care what people say. Like I get it, and he doesn't do well in top level games, whatever. But Cousins is a heck of an NFL quarterback, and you've got Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, and you've got a halfway decent defense when they're doing things the right way, when they have a good game call, but they still struggle. Yeah. Obviously the lines are who they are, like you and I both said they were going to be. And then with the situation with the Packers, you have a potential situation here that we saw Jordan Love go out there and just look horrible in a game. And if Aaron Rodgers, let's just say, goes out the door, you are primed to strike as the Chicago Bears. I know that you still don't have like a fully built team, but you all of a sudden become a prime spot for a actually good head coach to come in. If you can get him in there that can take a guy like Justin Fields and actually develop him quickly and put a system around for success, that's a prime potential spot. If Aaron Rodgers leaves.
It's also a prime spot for you to bring in an interim head coach, right? Because this is the Bears' last chance to win a game this season. They've got the Lions, but then the rest of their games are the Cardinals, the Packers, the Vikings, the Seahawks in Seattle, the Giants, and the Vikings. Maybe the Giants game at home, week 17, they have a chance. Maybe. I still think the Giants are a better football team.
Crap.
But it's still in Seattle, and the Bears are just on a very good team. So you bring an interim head coach into an impossible situation. The team's not going to perform well under him, and then you let him go at the end of the season. You clear house, and you bring in a new head coach. You let him bring in his coaching staff. You let him do the things that he wants to do. Exactly. Well, the Giants have your draft pick in the first round this year.
Oh, that's right.
Because you traded up for the for Fields, but you allow somebody else to come in and clean house and bring in their coaching staff. You allow them to go through free agency and pick their players. You allow them to use whatever draft picks you do have to pick some of the players that they want to develop. But you also have to come in and bring in a guy who absolutely believes in Justin Fields. I firmly believe, and I think that's got to be their number one target, is Eric Bieniemy. He's got to be the number one target heading into. He's not only has he shown that he's been a good offensive coach in Kansas City, he's also shown through this season that when the chips are down, he can help make adjustments. He can alter a game plan. He can do the things to get the Kansas City Chiefs back into a spot where they can play championship level football again. And that's what they're doing. They just went out this weekend and beat the Dallas Cowboys, who many believe are one of the top 4 teams in the NFC. So Eric Bieniemy, to me, is the right fit for the Chicago Bears, the right fit for Justin Fields moving forward. Whatever it is,
even if that Andy Reid coaching tree, which has been proven to be extremely successful,
right? And it's also where Matt Nagy came from too, right? So they may have a sour taste in their mouth, so they may go elsewhere. Whoever they do bring on has to be the right fit to develop Justin Fields.
100%.
That's got to be your number one priority heading into this offseason, is finding somebody who who believes in Justin Fields and who can develop Justin Fields.
Now here's the thing: develop Justin Fields, but I'm gonna just bang the tree that we almost just had earlier in the show here. Two things: one, running. We started talking about it when we all of a sudden then went crazy with Luke on some other things. They got to find a way to ensure that they know how to establish a run game to help protect Justin Fields, because right now the second Justin Fields is not handing the ball off, which is 80% of the time. They're just coming at him, and even though he can run, he's not developed enough to it. But they've got to find some. This is a draft.
And that's
that I know
line.
it's not sexy and everything, because it's not fantasy football, but it is a draft loaded with skilled players. You got to have someone that comes in and knows how to build an offensive line through free agency signings and a couple good draft picks.
The running backs,
right?
The Bears have the running backs. Well, you got Montgomery. You've also got Tariq Cohen, who's been off with the torn ACL, so he's coming back. They've got the Damian Williams. They've got running backs. They need an offensive line to be able to allow those running backs to gain yardage, which will then in turn open stuff up for Justin Fields. And that's when the Bears will become a dangerous team again. The defense is there too. I mean, we lose Khalil Mack, and all of a sudden Robert Quinn is coming out of nowhere, right? Robert Quinn has a chance to break the all-time record for sacks in a Bears uniform. Like it's. I mean, he's. I think he's 7.5 away with 7 games to play or something like that. So like, the Bears have the defense. They've got the talent on defense with Roquan Smith. They've got the talents at quarterback. They've got the talent at running back. They don't have an offensive line. They need a head coach that can develop all of that can put all of that together and put a system into place that allows this team to work to their strengths. And that's been a big flaw of Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy. So it can't stop at Matt Nagy. At the end of the year, Ryan Pace has to be gone too. You can't allow this man to pick another head coach. You can't.
Yeah. No, it's it all comes down to the offensive line. It's the unsung heroes. It's why I'm sitting here talking about, Creed Humphrey in Kansas City for Offensive Rookie of the Year, even being a Pats fan and everything, and saying, hey, Mac Jones is probably going to get it if he keeps it going, or Chase, because it's fantasy. But at the end of the day, there's nothing more important than that offensive line. Bill Belichick built it in New England, even when Brady was, doing GOAT-like numbers, which he still does. It's because they know you got to protect him. And we've seen even things with the greatness of Tom Brady. When you can't protect him, like the Super Bowls against the Giants, look what happens. You can't perform. Even the great Tom Brady cannot perform. He can't get his head on straight when you got people just rushing up you. And now you want a kid like Justin Fields, who has, to me, great sense of talent. I wanted him or Mac Jones on the Patriots. I didn't want all the other guys. I've said it on a couple other shows, but you can't do anything. No one could do anything if you just have a defensive line constantly in your face. And it's not like you do anything if you don't have an offensive line for the running game either. The running game can't go anywhere. And then you get behind, you're down 14, 17 to nothing. You're not going to run the ball. What are you going to do in this league? You're going to throw the ball, and it's going to be even worse. The coach that comes in, even if they know how to develop Fields, I say they bring in a quarterback coach that really they can trust to develop him. And then that this head coach, along with the GM, knows how to say, listen, this is how we're going to build around Justin Fields. And we're going to protect him, and we're going to protect this run game, period. And that's what we're going to do. And if they don't do that, you're going to be sitting here in 3-4 years from now, we're going to be having this exact same conversation.
Yeah, and I mean, look, they started it this offseason. They drafted the left tackle in the second round, who ended up having to have back surgery. His name is escaping me right now. But they drafted him. He ended up having to have back surgery. I believe he's planning on playing this week. I'm not 110% sure. but he's been cleared. He was cleared last week to play, but they held him out again. So you're going to bring him in. He's going to play. Let him develop. I mean, you've got guys that are just. I mean, you've tried hanging on too long. Like you went out and you got Flowers, and you got the right tackle there that they picked up from Kansas City. I can't remember his name now either. But it's just been abysmal watching this guy false start after false start. Late in his career, he's just clearly not the same player. And so they've started on the right path. They need, and now they're starting on the right path again. They're getting rid of Nagy, get rid of Ryan Pace, let a new GM come in, pick out a new head coach, develop this guy, pick the right players in the draft, and start developing this thing again. And the Bears, they're not far away. They're not far away.
I ask you this because we say they're not far away, but they still are the third team in that division, and they still have a lot of problems. This isn't a simple fix, but like I said, you are far more enticing, even with a good talent in Chicago. You're far more enticing if Aaron Rodgers is not suiting up in green. Do you, as the Chicago ownership, wait to see what Aaron Rodgers is going to do before do you really let it go that long into March?
Because if you've got an offensive line that can actually block and actually give some time for the run game to develop and actually give some time for Justin Fields when he does have to do a 5 or 7 step drop, not every time as he's getting sacked 9 times a game, Matt Nagy, but when he does need to do a 5 to 7 step drop, you are the second best team in this division if Aaron Rodgers is still in Green Bay. And you're almost every bit as good as Green Bay. You're not far behind Green Bay. And Aaron Rodgers isn't getting any younger. The Green Bay Packers have shown signs that they are beatable, even with Aaron Rodgers this season. So, no, I think that it doesn't matter what Aaron Rodgers does. It doesn't matter what the Green Bay Packers do. You've got to start building a team that can beat them. And until you do that, what sense does it make to do anything at that point? If you're just saying, oh, well, Aaron Rodgers is in Green Bay, well, we're not competing for the division, you might as well just chalk it up.
No, I know. I was just saying, like, the appealing factor of a good coach, that might be more excited to come to it. But I think no matter what, it's going to be way too late by the time Aaron Rodgers decides what he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers will decide the week before the season starts, right?
Yeah, probably.
and then have an interview where he dogs ownership.
Well, when you're as good as he is and you get to win,
it's
you get
true.
to dog a little bit more. That's
true. But you know what? He looks like he's stealing catalytic converters on the side when he's off the field. I mean,
he's doing it while winning games, man. Those catalytic converters are going at primo price right now.
All right, Soup. Well, we're getting close to our time here. It's been a real fun night. We had a good interview again with RC Orlan, had some fun with Luke G, talking here about Matt Nagy. Soup, any last words for the people?
Yeah.
Man Hour Nation, rise up.